What do you do when someone tries to control you and fails? How do you protect yourself when they switch from charm to cruelty? And why is it that the moment you stand your ground, they suddenly become the victim? Before we dive deep into these tactics and how to stay centered through them, take a moment to subscribe and join a community that values wisdom, emotional resilience, and personal strength. Because here, we don't just talk about self-improvement, we live it. 1. The mass drops, public shaming. When the subtle threads of private manipulation fray and snap, when charm offensive meets an unyielding boundary, the manipulator faces a crisis of control. Their preferred method, quiet influence, veiled suggestions, perhaps even feigned intimacy, has failed. The target is no longer pliable, no longer susceptible to their covert maneuvers. In this moment of thwarted power, a switch often flips. The velvet glove comes off, revealing an iron fist, and the theater of operations shifts dramatically from the private chamber to the public square. This is a tactic of public shaming, a desperate, scorched-earth strategy designed not to regain control over you directly, but to control a perception of you held by others. It's a performance, often loud and dramatic, enacted before an audience, colleagues, family members, friends, or even strangers on social media. The goal is to inflict pain, isolate you through embarrassment, and punish your defiance by attempting to tarnish your reputation. Why resort to such a crude and often self-damaging tactic? The motivations are complex, but often stem from profound narcissistic injury. The manipulator's sense of superiority and entitlement is wounded when their influence is rejected. Public shaming serves multiple purposes for them. Firstly, it's an act of revenge. They feel slighted, and they lash out, aiming to inflict a comparable or greater sense of humiliation upon the person who dare to defy them. Secondly, it's an attempt to regain control, albeit indirectly. If they can successfully paint you as unreasonable, unstable, cruel, or incompetent in the eyes of others, they might sway opinion against you, making it harder for you to maintain your boundaries or garner support. They aim to control the narrative, casting themselves, perhaps implicitly, as a reasonable party or even the victim of your alleged wrongdoing. Thirdly, it can be a tool for deflection. By creating a loud, public spectacle focused on your perceived flaws, they divert attention from their own manipulative behavior and the reasons why their private control attempts failed. They muddy the waters, making it difficult for onlookers to discern the true dynamics of the situation. Finally, public shaming can serve as a warning to others. By making an example of you, they implicitly signal to anyone else in their orbit the potential consequences of challenging their authority or desires. The forms public shaming can take are varied. It might be a sudden outburst in a meeting, where a professional disagreement is twisted into a personal attack on your character or competence. It could manifest as a series of scathing posts on social media, perhaps selectively quoting messages out of context or fabricating accusations entirely. In family gatherings, it might look like dramatic, tearful recriminations designed to make you appear cold and uncaring in front of relatives. They might spread malicious gossip disguised as concern, whispering doubts about your stability or intentions to mutual acquaintances. The common thread is a performance. The intent to draw attention, evoke strong negative emotions towards you, and leverage the power of social judgment. The manipulator often relies on the audience's potential discomfort with conflict, their tendency to believe the loudest voice, or their susceptibility to dramatic narratives. For the person targeted, the experience of public shaming can be intensely painful and disorienting. It triggers primal fears of rejection and ostracization. You might feel a burning sense of injustice, intense embarrassment, confusion, anger, and profound isolation. There's often a feeling of helplessness, as defending yourself publicly can sometimes seem to validate the spectacle or draw you deeper into the manipulator's toxic game. The attack feels disproportionate and unfair, particularly when it follows your attempt to simply maintain healthy boundaries or assert your autonomy. It can make you question yourself, even if only momentarily, wondering if you somehow did provoke this extreme reaction. The sheer force of the public condemnation, even if orchestrated by one person, can feel overwhelming. Here, the wisdom of Stoicism provides a powerful anchor. Epictetus, A former slave who became a renowned Stoic philosopher offered counsel that cuts directly to the heart of this issue. If evil be spoken of you, and it be true, correct yourself. If it be a lie, laugh at it. This seemingly simple advice holds profound depth. Let's unpack it. If it be true doesn't mean accepting the shamer's distorted narrative. It means engaging in honest self-reflection. Did your actions, viewed objectively and according to your own values, fall short? Was there a genuine mistake or a character flaw you need to address for your own growth? If so, the path is self-correction, guided by virtue, wisdom, justice, courage, temperance, not by the shamer's demands or the public's fluctuating opinion. This correction is an internal process aimed at aligning yourself more closely with your own rational and ethical principles. If it be a lie, laugh at it. This isn't about finding humor in the pain, but about recognizing the absurdity and irrelevance of the lie to your true self. Stoicism teaches that our worth and happiness depends solely on our inner state, our character, our judgments, our reasoned choices, which are within our control. Reputation, the opinions of others, public approval or disapproval. These are externals, preferred or dispreferred, but ultimately indifferent to our core well-being and virtue. The manipulator's lies and the audience's potential reactions are outside your direct control. Fretting over them, becoming consumed by anger or despair, is to surrender your inner peace to external events. Laughing at the lie, in the Stoic sense, means acknowledging its existence without granting it power over your tranquility. It's a detachment born of understanding that your value is intrinsic, not derived from public consensus orchestrated by someone attempting to wound you. Marcus Aurelius would remind us to look at the shamer with understanding, perhaps even pity, recognizing their own internal turmoil and flawed reasoning driving their actions, without letting their flaws infect our own character. Therefore, the Stoic response to public shaming isn't necessarily about launching a public counterattack or desperately trying to clear your name with every single person. It begins internally. Reaffirm your own values and self-worth. Remind yourself that your character is defined by your consistent actions and intentions, not by a distorted snapshot presented by a manipulator. Practice the dichotomy of control. Focus your energy entirely on what you can control: your thoughts, your judgments, your responses, your integrity. Let go of the uncontrollable outcome. What others believe, how they react, the manipulator's future actions. Minimize engagement. Often, reacting defensively in the public arena feeds the drama the manipulator craves. A calm, measured response, if one is necessary at all, e.g., correcting a factual inaccuracy professionally, is far more powerful than emotional reactivity. Sometimes, dignified silence is the most potent reply, demonstrating that their attacks cannot destabilize your inner equilibrium. Seek support wisely. Confide in trusted friends or mentors who know your character and can offer perspective and validation, reinforcing your sense of reality against the manipulator's distortion. View the attack from a higher perspective. Consider the source. Someone resorting to public shaming is likely acting out of desperation, insecurity, and a lack of healthier coping mechanisms. Their behavior reflects their character, not yours. By staying grounded in your principles and refusing to let external attacks dictate your inner state, you neutralize the core objective of public shaming. They sought to control perception to wound you. By finding your value within, you render their external maneuvers largely irrelevant to your true self. 2. Playing the helpless victim. When the direct assault of public shaming proves ineffective or too costly, or perhaps even concurrently, the manipulator may deploy a strikingly different, yet equally potent strategy: playing the helpless victim. This tactic involves a dramatic inversion of reality. The individual who is attempting to control, coerce, or manipulate suddenly casts themselves in the role of the injured party, the misunderstood soul, the one deeply wounded by your actions. Typically, your act is setting a boundary, refusing a demand, or calling out their behavior. The moment their attempt at control is thwarted, they pivot, transforming their aggression or manipulation into a performance of profound suffering. Tears may flow readily. Accusations of cruelty, insensitivity, or betrayal are leveled, and narrative is rapidly constructed in which they are the protagonists wronged by your unreasonable or malicious behavior. The psychological drivers behind this tactic are multifaceted. At its core, Playing the victim is a powerful shield against accountability. By claiming injury, the manipulator deflects attention from their own inappropriate actions. Any attempt to hold them responsible is met with amplified cries of pain, making you appear like the aggressor for simply trying to address the original issue. It's a preemptive strike against consequences. Secondly, it's a potent tool for emotional manipulation and control. Feigned victimhood aims to elicit guilt, sympathy, and pity from the target and any onlookers. Guilt is a powerful motivator. If they can make you feel responsible for their alleged suffering, they might pressure you into retracting your boundary, apologizing for something you didn't do wrong, or conceding to their demands simply to alleviate their pain and your own discomfort. Sympathy from others can also rally allies to their side, isolating you further and validating their distorted narrative. Thirdly, for individuals with narcissistic traits, playing the victim can be a way to restore a damaged ego. Being resisted or having their manipulations exposed constitutes a narcissistic injury. Casting themselves as a victim allows them to reframe the situation in a way that preserves their sense of being wronged or special, rather than acknowledging their own flaws or failures. They become the tragic hero or martyr in their own internal drama. Finally, it can simply be a learned behavior. If playing the victim has successfully garnered attention, excused bad behavior, or manipulated outcomes in the past, it becomes a go-to tactic in their arsenal. The performance of victimhood can manifest in various ways. It might involve exaggerated emotional displays, sobbing, trembling, dramatic sighs, oftentimes for maximum impact on you or an audience. They might flood you with messages detailing how deeply you've hurt them, often using hyperbolic language. "You've destroyed me. I can't believe you'd be so cruel." They may twist your words or actions, taking them out of context to support their narrative of injury. For instance, your calm statement of a boundary, "I cannot lend you money again," might be reframed as, "You clearly don't care if I end up on the street. You're so cold-hearted." They might engage in Darvo, deny, attack, and reverse victim and offender, a common tactic where they deny their own actions, attack your credibility for bringing it up, and then claim they're the actual victim of your aggression or sensitivity. They might also triangulate, complaining bitterly to third parties about how badly you treated them, seeking validation, and recruits for team victim. The impact on the person targeted by this tactic can be profoundly confusing and emotionally draining. You might initially feel a pang of genuine sympathy or guilt, especially if you are an empathetic person. This is precisely what the manipulator counts on. You might start questioning yourself. Was I too harsh? Did I misunderstand? Am I actually being unfair? This self-doubt can paralyze you, making it difficult to hold firm on your boundaries. You might feel immense frustration at the injustice of being painted as the aggressor when you were simply defending yourself or stating a reasonable limit. Engaging with their claims often leads to circular arguments where facts are ignored, and the focus remains solely on their alleged feelings. It can feel like trying to nail jelly to a wall. Over time, repeated exposure to this tactic can erode trust completely and lead to emotional exhaustion, sometimes called compassion fatigue, as your natural empathy is exploited and weaponized against you. Stoicism offers a crucial framework for navigating this treacherous terrain. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, penned a timeless piece of advice in his meditations. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. While revenge might seem an odd word choice, its essence here is about the most effective and virtuous response. When someone transforms into a manipulative victim, the temptation might be to react with anger, frustration, counter-accusations, or even mimicking their dramatic behavior. Stoicism counsels against this. To be like your enemy, in this context, means descending into irrationality, emotional reactivity, and manipulative tactics yourself. The superior response, the Stoic response, is to maintain your own character, your own integrity, your own rationality, even when faced with irrationality and emotional manipulation. It means refusing to let their behavior dictate yours. It requires embodying the Stoic virtues, wisdom to see the tactic for what it is, a manipulation, not a genuine reflection of reality, justice to remain fair and factual, not getting drawn into their distorted narrative, courage to hold your ground and maintain your boundaries despite the emotional pressure, and temperance to manage your own emotional reactions, responding calmly and deliberately rather than impulsively. Practically, how does one apply this? Firstly, observe, don't absorb. Recognize the pattern of behavior. See the sudden shift from manipulation to victimhood as a strategic move, not necessarily a genuine expression of unbearable pain caused by you. Acknowledge their stated feelings without internalizing blame. You might say, "I hear that you feel hurt," which validates their expressed emotion without conceding that you are the wrongful cause of it. Avoid phrases like, "I'm sorry I made you feel that way," which implicitly accepts responsibility. Instead, if an apology is genuinely warranted for a specific action, independent of their manipulation, offer it sincerely but without caving on your core boundary. Secondly, stick to the facts. When drawn into conversations about the situation, calmly reiterate the objective events or your specific boundary. Avoid getting bogged down in arguments about their feelings or interpretations. Use I statements focused on your own experience and limits. I need to maintain this boundary for my own well-being, or when X happened, I felt Y. This recenters a conversation on observable reality and your legitimate needs. Thirdly, limit engagement with the drama. Refuse to participate in prolonged, circular arguments designed to wear you down. State your position clearly and calmly, then disengage if the conversation becomes unproductive or overly dramatic. You are not obligated to endlessly soothe manufactured distress. Fourthly, practice premeditatio malorum, premeditation of evils. Anticipate that when you set a boundary with a manipulative person, they might resort to playing the victim. Mentally preparing for this possibility can lessen its shock value and allow you to respond more rationally when it occurs. Finally, reconnect with your own judgment. Trust your perception of the initial manipulation. Remind yourself why the boundary was necessary in the first place. Journaling about the events can help clarify your thoughts and reinforce your resolve. By refusing to mirror their tactics and staying grounded in reason and virtue, you maintain your inner peace and make their victim-playing strategy far less effective. You demonstrate that your stability doesn't depend on their approval or emotional state. 3. Lies in the shadows, subtle smears. Not all counterattacks launched by a thwarted manipulator are overt declarations of war, like public shaming or theatrical displays of victimhood. Some are far more insidious, operating like a slow-acting poison administered in the shadows. This is a realm of subtle smears, a campaign of quiet, indirect defamation designed to erode your credibility, sow seeds of doubt about your character, and tarnish your reputation without leaving clear fingerprints. Unlike the loud bang of public shaming, this is death by 1,000 whispers. The manipulator aims to turn others against you, or at least make them question you, while maintaining an appearance of innocence or even feigned concern. They want to damage your social standing, your professional reputation, or your personal relationships, achieving indirectly the isolation and weakening they couldn't achieve through direct control. The motivation behind subtle smears often lies in a combination of cowardice and calculated strategy. Direct confrontation is risky. It can backfire or expose a manipulator's own malice. Subtle smears offer a way to attack with plausible deniability. If confronted, they can claim innocence, accuse the questioner of being paranoid, or suggest it was all a misunderstanding. "I was just expressing concern," or "I never said that directly," are common deflections. This tactic also plays on the manipulator's desire to control the narrative in a more sophisticated way than overt tactics allow. By carefully planting doubts and negative suggestions, they can shape perception over time, making you seem unstable, untrustworthy, incompetent, or malicious without ever having to present concrete evidence. It's about creating an atmosphere of suspicion around you. Furthermore, it appeals to a sense of passive aggression. The manipulator avoids the discomfort of open conflict while still managing to inflict harm and undermine the target who defied them. It's a way to punish and control from a safe distance, often deriving satisfaction from watching the target struggle against unseen currents of negativity. Subtle smears manifest in numerous ways, often tailored to the specific context, workplace, family, social circle. Common techniques include feigned concern, approaching mutual acquaintances with statements like, "I'm really worried about your name." They seem so stressed/unstable, angry lately? Have you noticed anything? This frames gossip as caring observation, innuendo and suggestion, making comments that imply negativity without stating it directly. Well, you know how your name can be sometimes leaving the listener to fill in the blanks with negative assumptions. Or, I hope things work out for them on that project. It seems very challenging for them. Strategic omission, sharing information but deliberately leaving out key context that would paint you in a more positive or neutral light. This creates a misleading picture without technically lying. Backhanded compliments, offering praise that contains a hidden insult or diminishes the achievement. That presentation was surprisingly good. I didn't expect you to pull it off. Or, it's great you're finally getting organized. Sharing confidences, revealing something private you once shared, often out of context, to make you look bad or untrustworthy. This is often framed as seeking advice or sharing a burden. Questioning competence indirectly, raising doubts about your abilities to third parties, perhaps by highlighting potential risks or difficulties associated with tasks you're responsible for, implying you might not be up to the challenge. Playing dumb, pretending not to understand your points or decisions, making you seem unclear or irrational to others. The impact of subtle smears on a target can be particularly insidious because of their elusive nature. You might start to notice people becoming distant, conversations halting when you approach, or opportunities drying up without understanding why. There's often a pervasive sense of anxiety and paranoia, a feeling of being watched or judged, but without a clear source to confront. You might hear rumors indirectly, distorted versions of events that make you question your own memory or sanity, gaslighting. This can lead to social isolation as trust erodes, not just in the manipulator, but potentially in the wider circle who seem influenced by the smears. Professionally, it can hinder advancement or collaboration. Emotionally, it's deeply frustrating and exhausting to fight against shadows, to defend yourself against accusations that are never made directly to your face. The lack of concrete evidence makes it hard to address the issue without appearing defensive or overly sensitive, playing right into the manipulator's hands. The Stoic response to this covert form of attack is rooted in the unwavering focus on inner character and the long game of truth. The guiding principle is consistency and integrity. While the original text suggests, remain consistent. Over time, truth has a way of revealing itself. Stoicism offers a deeper layer to this. It's not just passively waiting for truth to emerge, but actively living a life aligned with virtue, so consistently that the smears eventually lose their sticking power. Marcus Aurelius frequently wrote about the importance of maintaining one's inner citadel, unaffected by external chaos or malice. Your actions, your choices, your responses, these are the bricks and mortar of that citadel. Here's how to apply Stoic principles against subtle smears. Focus relentlessly on your own actions. Proharis says this is the core of Stoic practice. Your domain is your reasoned choice, your intentions, and your actions. Ensure these are consistently guided by wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. Do your work diligently and ethically. Treat others with fairness and respect, even those you suspect are being influenced by smears. Be transparent and honest in your dealings. You're consistent. Virtuous behavior becomes your most potent defense, creating a reality that contradicts the whispers. Practice indifference to reputation. Apathy or reputation, like wealth or health, is an external, while a good reputation is preferred. Stoicism teaches us not to attach our happiness or self-worth to it, as it's ultimately outside our full control and subject to the whims and manipulations of others. Worrying excessively about rumors gives them power over your inner peace. Acknowledge the existence of smears, but strive for emotional detachment, recognizing they don't define your true character. Ask yourself, does this whisper change the truth of my actions? Does it detract from my virtue? If the answer is no, it shouldn't fundamentally disturb your tranquility. Avoid chasing shadows. Actively trying to hunt down every rumor and refute every whisper is often futile and exhausting. It can make you look desperate and validates the idea that the smears are affecting you. Focus instead on your present actions and direct interactions. Address factual inaccuracies calmly and directly if they arise in a concrete way that impacts your responsibilities or well-being, but don't go on a crusade against hearsay. Cultivate genuine relationships. Invest your energy in building and maintaining strong, trust-based relationships with people who value honesty and judge based on direct experience rather than gossip. These individuals will be less susceptible to smears and can serve as a buffer and reality check. Open communication within this trusted circle is key. Apply the view from above. Marcus Aurelius often recommended mentally zooming out to see situations from a cosmic perspective. From this vantage point, petty gossip and manipulative whispers seem insignificant in the grand sweep of life and the universe. This exercise can help diminish the emotional weight of the smears and restore perspective. Let truth be your advocate. While it might take time, consistent integrity tends to shine through. People who interact with you directly will eventually notice the discrepancy between the rumors and the reality of your character. Lies require constant maintenance. Truth stands on its own. Live your truth so authentically that the smears eventually collapse under the weight of contradictory evidence provided by your own life. In essence, the Stoic approach isn't about fighting the smear campaign directly in the shadows, but about bringing your own light of integrity and consistent virtue into the world so brightly that the shadows inevitably recede. It demands patience, resilience, and an unwavering commitment to your own principles, regardless of the quiet negativity being sown by others. 4. Divide and conquer. Isolation. One of the most devastating tactics employed by a manipulator, especially after failing to control you directly, is a strategy of divide and conquer, aiming for your isolation. A manipulator understands, intuitively or consciously, that strength often lies in unity and support. Your connections to friends, family, colleagues, mentors, anyone who offers you emotional grounding, perspective, validation, or practical help, represent a significant threat to their influence. These support systems act as a buffer, a reality check, and a source of resilience that makes you less susceptible to manipulation and control. Therefore, the manipulator actively works to sever these connections, aiming to leave you stranded, vulnerable, and potentially more dependent on them. Paradoxically, even as you resist their control, they thrive when you are alone, confused, and cut off from countervailing voices. The motivation behind this isolation tactic is clear: weakening the target. A person cut off from their support network is emotionally and psychologically more fragile. They may lack the external perspective needed to recognize the manipulation clearly. Minor issues can seem overwhelming without someone to talk them through. The manipulator hopes that this weakened state will make you more compliant, more likely to doubt yourself, or simply too exhausted to continue resisting. Secondly, isolation removes potential interference. Friends and family who care about you might notice the manipulator's toxic behavior and try to intervene or offer you help to leave the situation. By cutting you off from these allies, the manipulator eliminates witnesses and potential rescuers, giving them freer rein. Thirdly, it fosters dependency. If the manipulator successfully isolates you from other meaningful relationships, they may position themselves, however toxically, as the only person you have left. This creates a disturbing dynamic where you might feel trapped or unable to leave, even if the relationship is harmful, because the alternative seems like complete solitude. Finally, isolation serves to validate the manipulator's narrative. If they can convince your support system that you're the problem, unreasonable, unstable, difficult, those people might pull away, seemingly proving the manipulator's point and leaving you feeling abandoned and questioning your own reality. The methods used to achieve isolation are often subtle and insidious, playing on existing insecurities or minor tensions within your relationships. They rarely announce their intention to cut you off. Instead, they might sow seeds of distrust. They might tell you negative things, true, exaggerated, or false, that your friends or family have allegedly said about you. Conversely, they might tell your friends and family negative things about you, often framed with concern. "I'm worried about your name. They said this about you." This creates mutual suspicion and distance. Manufacture conflict. They might subtly provoke arguments or misunderstandings between you and your loved ones, then perhaps step in as the mediator, further entrenching your position while weakening your other bonds. Demand increasing amounts of time and attention. They might guilt you for spending time with others, claiming they feel neglected or need you constantly. This slowly crowds out other relationships. Criticize your support system. They might constantly find fault with your friends and family, highlighting their flaws, questioning their motives, or suggesting they are a bad influence, aiming to make you voluntarily pull away. Create loyalty tests. They might create situations where you feel forced to choose between them and your friends or family, punishing you with disapproval or withdrawal if you don't choose them. Control communication. In more extreme cases, they might monitor your calls or messages, discourage you from attending social events, or even move you geographically away from your support network. Play the victim regarding your relationships. They might claim that your friends or family don't like them, or are trying to break you up, forcing you into a defensive posture where you feel obligated to distance yourself to appease a manipulator. The impact on the targeted individual is profound and damaging. Loneliness is the most immediate effect, often accompanied by feelings of vulnerability and helplessness. Without the grounding influence of trusted others, your perspective can become warped, making it harder to accurately assess the situation or trust your own judgment. The manipulator's viewpoint may start to seem more plausible simply due to lack of alternatives. This can lead to increased anxiety, depression, and a sense of being trapped. You might feel confused about who to trust, leading to a general withdrawal from social interaction. The loss of your support network removes practical help, like a place to stay if things escalate, and crucial emotional validation, making it significantly harder to resist manipulation or leave the situation. Stoic philosophy offers powerful tools for resisting and mitigating this isolation tactic, primarily through its emphasis on inner resilience, rational judgment, and the nature of true connection. Seneca the Younger, a prominent Stoic philosopher, wrote extensively on friendship, teaching that true friends are united in virtue. He argued that relationships based merely on utility or pleasure are fragile and transient, while those founded on mutual respect share values like honesty, justice, and goodwill, and a commitment to mutual betterment are enduring. This provides a crucial insight. Anyone who turns on you easily was never firmly with you to begin with. While this might sound harsh, it encourages discernment. If a manipulator's whispers can easily sway a friend or family member against you without seeking your perspective, perhaps that bond wasn't as strong or virtuous as you believed. This doesn't mean abandoning all relationships, but rather focusing energy on cultivating and protecting those that are rooted in genuine trust and mutual respect. The Stoic response to the threat of isolation involves several key actions. Proactive nurturing of virtuous relationships. Don't wait until you are under attack to invest in your support system. Regularly cultivate your connections with friends and family who demonstrate integrity, loyalty, and genuine care. Practice open, honest communication. Share your values and allow them to share theirs. Strong. Healthy relationships built during times of peace are much harder for a manipulator to infiltrate or dismantle during times of conflict. Practice discernment. Phronesis, use your reason to evaluate your relationships. Who consistently acts with integrity? Who supports your growth? Who respects your boundaries? Who encourages your connections with other healthy people? Be wary of those who demand exclusivity, speak constantly ill of others you care about, or try to create divisions. Trust your intuition when someone feels off, but verify with reason and observation. Communicate directly and verify information. If you hear that a friend or a family member has supposedly said something negative about you, especially if the source is a suspected manipulator, go directly to that person, if safe and appropriate, and seek clarification calmly. I heard X and it didn't sound like you. Can we talk about it? Likewise, if the manipulator claims you said something negative about a loved one, be prepared for that loved one to potentially approach you. Open channels prevent triangulation. Maintain healthy boundaries around your relationships. Do not allow the manipulator to dictate who you can see or talk to. Your relationships are not subject to their approval. Calmly assert your right to maintain your connections. My relationship with my family/friend is important to me, and I will continue to nurture it. Refuse to participate in negative gossip about your loved ones initiated by the manipulator. Build your inner citadel. Stoicism emphasizes self-sufficiency, not as isolation, but as inner strength. Cultivate your own resilience through practices like journaling, mindfulness, reading philosophy, and reflecting on your values. The stronger your inner core, the less dependent you are on external validation, making you less vulnerable even if the manipulator succeeds in creating some temporary distance. Remember the Stoic concept of cosmopolitanism. Your fundamental connection is to the human community through shared reason. This can combat feelings of profound isolation. Recognize the tactic. Simply being aware that divide and conquer is a common manipulative strategy can help you identify it when it's happening. This awareness allows you to view the manipulator's actions, the whispers, the criticisms of your friends, the demands on your time, through a lens of strategy rather than taking them at face value. Protecting your circle isn't just about defending against attacks. It's about proactively building a network founded on the Stoic ideals of virtue, reason, and mutual respect. Such a network is not easily broken by the divisive tactics of those who seek to control through isolation. 5. The guilt trap. Among the most pervasive and emotionally corrosive tools in the manipulator's arsenal is the guilt trap. This tactic weaponizes your own sense of empathy, responsibility, and fairness against you. When direct control fails, or alongside other methods, the manipulator attempts to induce feelings of guilt to coerce you into compliance, prevent you from setting boundaries, or punish you for asserting your independence. Accusations like "you're so selfish," "you've changed for the worse," "you obviously don't care about me / us," or "look how much pain you're causing me" are hallmark phrases of the guilt trap. They are designed to tug at your conscience, making you feel unreasonable, unkind, or obligated, thereby pressuring you to abandon your own needs or decisions in favor of theirs. Guilt, in this context, is not a natural response to genuine wrongdoing, but a manufactured emotional state imposed as a leash. Why is guilt such a favorite tool? Firstly, it's highly effective on empathetic individuals. People who are naturally conscientious, caring, and attuned to the feelings of others are prime targets. They have a strong desire to be good and fair, and the accusation of being selfish or uncaring strikes at the core of their self-perception, making them anxious to rectify the perceived wrong, even if the accusation is baseless. Secondly, guilt shifts the focus away from the manipulator's behavior. By accusing you of causing them pain or being selfish, they deflect attention from their own unreasonable demands, controlling behavior, or failure to respect your boundaries. The conversation becomes about your alleged inadequacy, not their inappropriate actions. Thirdly, it serves to maintain control and prevent abandonment. By making you feel perpetually indebted or responsible for their emotional well-being, manipulators can keep you tethered to them. Every attempt you make to create distance or prioritize your own needs can be met with a fresh wave of guilt-inducing accusations, pulling you back into their orbit. It functions as emotional blackmail. Do what I want, or you are a bad / uncaring person. Fourthly, it can be used to punish independence. When you start making choices that prioritize your own well-being or goals, choices that might decrease your availability or utility to the manipulator, they deploy guilt to make you second-guess those choices and feel bad about your newfound autonomy. The guilt trap manifests in various forms, often overlapping. Direct accusations, blatantly calling you selfish, inconsiderate, ungrateful, or uncaring when you don't comply with their wishes. Playing the martyr, constantly emphasizing their own sacrifices, real or imagined, for you, implying a debt that you can never fully repay. After all I've done for you, this is how you treat me? Exaggerated emotional reactions, responding to your boundaries or decisions with disproportionate displays of sadness, hurt, or disappointment, implicitly blaming you for their emotional state. Sighing heavily, looking crestfallen, withdrawing into wounded silence. Comparisons, contrasting your behavior unfavorably with others, real or fictional, who are supposedly more caring or dutiful. So-and-so's partner always puts them first. Bringing up past mistakes, dredging up unrelated past errors or perceived failings to make you feel generally inadequate and more susceptible to guilt in the present situation. Feigning illness or crisis, exaggerating or inventing problems to elicit sympathy and make you feel obligated to drop everything and cater to their needs. Feeling guilty if you don't. Using love as leverage, framing their demands as proof of love and your reluctance as proof of lack thereof. If you really love me, you wouldn't hesitate to. The cumulative impact of being caught in a guilt trap is deeply detrimental to one's mental and emotional health. It fosters chronic anxiety and self-doubt, as you constantly question whether you are doing enough or being good enough. It leads to resentment, as you feel forced to act against your own needs and desires out of obligation rather than genuine willingness. Your boundaries become eroded, as it feels too emotionally costly to maintain them against the tide of guilt. This can lead to emotional exhaustion and burnout, as you pour energy into managing the manipulator's perceived needs and your own manufactured guilt. Ultimately, it can severely damage your self-esteem and sense of self-worth, making you feel inherently flawed or selfish for having needs and limits. You may lose touch with your own internal compass of right and wrong, relying instead on the manipulator's reactions to gauge your adequacy. Stoicism provides a powerful antidote to the poison of manipulative guilt by drawing a clear line between what we are truly responsible for and what we are not. The core principle here is, once again, the dichotomy of control, supplemented by a clear understanding of Stoic duty, kathekon, and the nature of emotions. Epictetus and other Stoics emphasize that we are responsible for our own intentions, judgment, and actions, our inner world. We are not responsible for the emotions, judgments, or reactions of other people, as those belong to their inner world, and are ultimately shaped by their interpretations and beliefs, not directly by our actions. While our actions have consequences, the emotional response someone has to our actions is filtered through their own lens. The Stoic response, therefore, involves reclaiming a correct understanding of responsibility. Distinguish between true guilt and manipulative guilt. True guilt, in a Stoic sense, arises from recognizing that your own actions have violated your rational and virtuous principles, e.g., you acted unjustly, cowardly, or intemperately by your own standards. Manipulative guilt is an external imposition, an attempt to make you feel bad for actions that are often reasonable and necessary for your own well-being, like setting boundaries. Ask yourself, did my action violate my own core values of justice, wisdom, courage, or temperance? Or am I feeling bad simply because someone else is displeased with my reasonable choice? Accept responsibility only for your actions, not their emotions. You are responsible for acting virtuously, being fair, reasonable, kind within the bounds of justice. You are not responsible for guaranteeing another person's happiness or managing their emotional reactions to your choices, especially if those choices are sound. You can acknowledge their feelings. I understand you're upset, without accepting blame for causing them, but I need to maintain this boundary. Define your duties rationally. Stoicism speaks of duties or appropriate actions, kathekonta. These are actions aligned with our nature as rational and social beings. Caring for family, contributing to society, acting justly. However, these duties are not limitless and should not be dictated by a manipulator's emotional demands. Define your responsibilities based on reason, fairness, and your own capacity, not based on guilt-inducing pressure. Is the request reasonable? Is it just? Does it align with your values? Can you fulfill it without violating your own integrity or neglecting other important duties? Set and maintain clear boundaries. Boundaries are essential for protecting yourself from manipulative guilt. They are clear statements of what you are willing and unwilling to do, based on your values and capacity. When the guilt tripping starts, you're selfish for saying no. Calmly reiterate the boundary without excessive justification or apology. I understand you see it that way, but my decision stands. Consistency is key. Giving and reinforces the effectiveness of the guilt trap. Practice self-compassion. Recognize that having needs, limits, and desires is not selfish. It's human. Counter the manipulator's accusations internally with affirmations of your right to self-care and autonomy. Treat yourself with the same understanding and fairness you extend to a friend in a similar situation. Focus on internal validation. Seek validation from your own rational judgment and adherence to your principles, not from the approval of the manipulator. Remind yourself that their disapproval, especially when deployed as a manipulative tactic, is not an accurate reflection of your worth or character. By understanding the mechanics of the guilt trap and applying Stoic principles of responsibility, boundary setting, and internal validation, you can gradually diffuse its power. You learn to distinguish the echo of your own conscience from the manipulative noise of others, freeing yourself to act with integrity and peace, regardless of attempts to leash you with unwarranted guilt. 6. The subtle art of confidence erosion. Not all manipulation aims for immediate compliance through overt pressure or emotional outbursts. Some forms are more insidious, operating like a steady drip of acid that slowly corrodes a target's self-belief over time. This is the subtle art of confidence erosion, a campaign of small, often deniable remarks and actions designed to plant seeds of doubt, undermine self-worth, and foster a sense of inadequacy in the target. Unlike direct criticism, which can be identified and potentially refuted, confidence erosion works through nuance, implication, and faint negativity, making it difficult to pin down yet powerfully effective in the long run. The manipulator's goal is often to make the target feel less capable, less independent, and therefore more reliant on the manipulator for validation, guidance, or even basic functioning, thereby increasing the manipulator's control. The motivations behind this tactic are often rooted in the manipulator's own insecurities and need for superiority. By diminishing the target's confidence, the manipulator artificially inflates their own sense of competence and control in comparison. If the target feels unsure of themselves, they are less likely to challenge the manipulator, pursue their own goals independently, or leave the relationship, be it personal or professional. It's a way of leveling the playing field in the manipulator's favor, not by raising themselves up, but by subtly pushing the other person down. This tactic also serves to create and maintain dependency. A person who doubts their own judgment, skills, or desirability is more likely to defer to the manipulator's opinions and decisions, and less likely to trust their own ability to succeed without them. It can also be a form of passive aggression, allowing the manipulator to express negativity or resentment without engaging in open conflict. They get to undermine the target while maintaining an air of being helpful, objective, or merely observant. Confidence erosion is rarely enacted through single, dramatic events. It's the cumulative effect of seemingly minor interactions. Persistent nitpicking, constantly finding small flaws in everything the target does, from how they dress or speak to how they perform tasks at work or home. These criticisms are often framed as helpful suggestions or observations, backhanded compliments. As mentioned before, these remarks mix praise with an underlying insult that subtly diminishes the achievement or the person. You actually look quite nice today, implying they usually don't, or that report was good, much better than I expected from you. Downplaying achievements, attributing the target's successes to luck, external factors, or help of others, rather than their own skill or effort. Wow, you were really lucky to get that promotion, or, well, anyone could have done that with the resources you had. Constant questioning of judgment, regularly second-guessing the target's decisions, opinions, or perceptions, often under the guise of concern. Are you sure you want to do that? Do you really think that's the best way? Maybe you should rethink that. Subtle comparisons, making unfavorable comparisons between the target and others, implying the target doesn't quite measure up. Helpful advice that undermines, offering unsolicited advice that implies the target is incompetent or incapable of handling things on their own. This is often done in areas where the target is actually skilled. Ignoring or minimizing contributions, overlooking or failing to acknowledge the target's ideas, efforts, or successes, making them feel invisible or unimportant. Jokes at the target's expense, using humor to deliver cutting remarks about the target's abilities, appearance, or intelligence, then dismissing any hurt feelings by saying, "I was just kidding. Can't you take a joke?" The long-term impact of this slow drip of negativity can be devastating. The target may develop chronic self-doubt, constantly second-guessing their own abilities and decisions. This can lead to imposter syndrome, the persistent feeling of being a fraud who is about to be found out, even in the face of objective success. Their ambition may dwindle as they begin to believe they aren't capable of achieving their goals. They might avoid taking risks or pursuing new opportunities for fear of failure or criticism. This can lead to increased reliance on the manipulator for validation and decision-making, creating the very dependency the manipulator sought. Over time, it can contribute to anxiety, depression, and a pervasive sense of low self-worth. The subtlety of the tactic makes it particularly damaging, as the target might internalize the negativity, believing the manipulator's assessment is accurate, rather than recognizing it as a deliberate strategy of control. They might simply conclude, "Maybe I'm just not very good at things." Stoicism offers a powerful defense against confidence erosion by grounding self-worth not in external validation or perceived competencies, but in internal character and rational self-awareness. The Stoic ideal is not unshakable arrogance, but confidence rooted in self-knowledge, an objective understanding of one's strengths, weaknesses, and most importantly, one's commitment to living virtuously. Marcus Aurelius spoke of building an inner citadel, a fortress of the mind impervious to external assaults, including these subtle jabs at self-worth. Building this inner fortress involves several Stoic practices. Objective self-assessment. Regularly and honestly evaluate your own actions, skills, and character, guided by reason, not by the manipulator's comments or your own reactive emotions. Acknowledge areas for genuine improvement without falling into global self-condemnation. Recognize your strengths and past successes based on factual evidence. Keeping a journal where you track challenges overcome, skills developed, and positive actions taken can be a powerful antidote to externally imposed doubt. Focus on effort and intention, not just outcome. Stoicism teaches that while outcomes are often influenced by external factors beyond our control, our efforts and intentions are within our control. Base your self-worth on your commitment to trying your best, acting virtuously, and learning from experiences, regardless of whether you achieve the desired result or receive external praise. This decouples your confidence from the unpredictable nature of success or the biased feedback of a manipulator. Practice the dichotomy of control. Recognize that the manipulator's opinions, comments, and attempt to undermine you are external to you. They reflect their mindset, insecurities, and intentions, not objective truth about your worth. You cannot control what they say or think, but you can control how you interpret their words and whether you allow those words to define your self-perception. Choose to see their jabs as noise, not data. Internal validation. Actively cultivate self-acceptance and self-respect based on your adherence to your own values. Remind yourself daily of your inherent worth as a rational being striving for virtue. Your value doesn't fluctuate based on someone else's approval or disapproval. As Epictetus might suggest, focus on pleasing your inner judge, your own reason and conscience, rather than external critics. Selective use of feedback. Learn to distinguish between constructive criticism offered with good intent, which can be valuable for growth, and manipulative undermining disguised as feedback. Consider the source. Is this person generally supportive and acting in good faith? Is the feedback specific and actionable or vague and diminishing? Does it align with feedback from other trusted sources? Filter external comments through your own rational judgment. Mindful awareness. Pay attention to the patterns of interaction. Notice when the subtle jabs occur, how they make you feel, and the context. Simply recognizing the pattern, there's that undermining tactic again, can lessen its emotional impact and help you see it as a strategy rather than a reflection of reality. Affirm your capabilities. Consciously recall past achievements and challenges you've overcome. Remind yourself of your skills and resilience. If necessary, seek external validation from trusted, objective sources, mentors, supportive friends, or professionals who can offer a more balanced perspective on your capabilities. By diligently applying these Stoic principles, you build resilience against the corrosive effects of subtle confidence erosion. Your self-worth becomes anchored internally in your character and reasoned choices, rather than being swayed by the manipulative whispers designed to make you doubt yourself. You learn to inhabit your inner citadel, secure in your own foundation, regardless of the attempt to chip away at it from the outside. 7. The illusion of reconciliation. Just when you think you've finally created distance, established firm boundaries, or perhaps even ended the relationship with a manipulative individual, they may employ one last, often highly effective, tactic: the illusion of reconciliation. This is a stage where the manipulator, sensing they've truly lost control or are about to face definitive consequences, like you leaving permanently, suddenly appears to have undergone a miraculous transformation. They might reappear after a period of silence, full of apologies, promises of change, and nostalgic reminiscences about the good times. Their strategies shift from overt or covert hostility back to charm, pleading, or feigned remorse. The goal is to lure you back into the dynamic, to lower your defenses, and to regain control they previously lost, all under the guise of a fresh start. This is often referred to as hoovering, an attempt to suck you back into the toxic cycle. The motivations behind creating an illusion of reconciliation are primarily self-serving, despite appearances. Firstly, It's about regaining control and access. The manipulator misses the power, attention, resources, emotional, financial, practical, or sense of validation they derive from the relationship. The reconciliation is merely a means to restore that supply. Secondly, it's often driven by a fear of abandonment or consequences. Being definitively rejected or facing the finality of separation can be deeply threatening, especially to individuals with narcissistic tendencies or high control needs. The reconciliation attempt is a way to avoid this outcome. Thirdly, sometimes it stems from boredom or desire to repeat the cycle. Manipulative dynamics can become habitual after a period apart. The manipulator might simply seek to re-engage the familiar pattern. Fourthly, there's rarely genuine change involved. True personal transformation is a difficult, lengthy process requiring deep self-reflection and consistent effort. The manipulator's sudden change is typically superficial, a shift in tactics, not a fundamental alteration of their underlying beliefs, entitlement, or behavioral patterns. They are saying what they believe you need to hear to let them back in. The illusion of reconciliation can take many forms, often appearing highly convincing initially. Sudden, profuse apologies, offering seemingly heartfelt apologies for past behavior, perhaps even taking responsibility for specific incidents they previously denied. However, these apologies often lack depth or genuine understanding of the hurt caused. Promises of change, making grand declarations about how they've seen the light, are getting help, or will never behave that way again. These promises are rarely backed up by concrete, sustained actions. Love bombing 2.0, showering you with affection, gifts, compliments, and intense attention, reminiscent of the early positive stages of the relationship, to remind you the good and obscure the bad. Nostalgia and reminiscence, focusing heavily on positive memories, shared jokes, or past happiness, attempting to evoke warm feelings and make you forget the reasons for the distance or conflict. Remember how wonderful things used to be? Minimizing past behavior, suggesting that the past problems weren't that serious, were misunderstandings, or should just be forgotten. Let's just put all that behind us and move forward. Manufacturing a crisis, creating or exaggerating a personal crisis, health scare, financial trouble, emotional breakdown, to elicit your sympathy and draw you back and out of a sense of obligation or concern. Appealing to shared history or commitments, using shared children, history, or investment as leverage, suggesting that reconciliation is necessary for your sake or because we've invested too much. The impact on a target can be incredibly confusing and emotionally taxing. You might feel a surge of hope, a desire to believe that change is possible and the relationship can be salvaged. This hope can be intoxicating, especially if you genuinely care for the person or miss the positive aspects of the relationship. You might feel confused, torn between your memory of the past hurt and the seemingly changed person in front of you now. There can be immense pressure to forgive and forget, both internally wanting peace and externally from a manipulator or even mutual acquaintances who see the apparent change. Letting your guard down can feel like a relief initially, but it leaves you vulnerable to being hurt again when the old patterns inevitably resurface. Each time you are drawn back in by an illusion only to be disappointed, it can deepen feelings of cynicism, self-blame, how could I fall for again, and hopelessness. Stoicism offers invaluable wisdom for navigating these deceptive waters, emphasizing reason, observation, and memory over hope and emotion. The core Stoic response is captured in the advice: observe patterns. Words can lie. Patterns don't. A Stoic approach doesn't dismiss the possibility of genuine change in others, but demands evidence, consistent, long-term behavioral evidence, not just words or temporary gestures. Here's how to apply Stoic principles when faced with an illusion of reconciliation. Prioritize observation over emotion. Acknowledge your feelings of hope or desire for reconciliation, but don't let them drive your decision. Instead, engage your rational faculty. Look at the manipulator's actions, not just their words. Has their behavior fundamentally changed over a sustained period? Have they demonstrated empathy, respect for boundaries, and accountability consistently, even when not actively trying to win you back? Or is this a sudden shift coinciding with their loss of control? Consult your memory and reason. Recall the previous patterns of behavior. Why did you create distance or set boundaries in the first place? What were the specific manipulative tactics used? Has the underlying issue truly been addressed, or is it just being temporarily masked? Use your past experiences as data. History is often the best predictor of future behavior, unless there is compelling evidence of profound, consistent change. Maintain healthy skepticism. While not advocating for cynicism, a rational degree of skepticism is warranted given the history. Don't immediately accept promises at face value. Adopt a trust but verify approach, where verification requires time and consistent demonstration of changed behavior, not just verbal assurances. Reinforce your boundaries. Do not dismantle the boundaries you carefully erected just because the manipulator is being pleasant now. If you choose to allow some level of contact, maintain clear limits. Observe if they respect these limits consistently. Any immediate pushback against boundaries is a red flag that the change is superficial. Distinguish forgiveness from reconciliation. Stoicism encourages forgiveness in the sense of letting go of your own anger and resentment for your own peace of mind. It prevents bitterness from consuming you. However, forgiveness does not equate to forgetting the past, trusting blindly, or resuming the relationship on the old terms, or even at all. You can forgive someone internally while still recognizing, rationally, that reconciliation is unwise or unsafe. Your peace comes from releasing internal turmoil, not necessarily from external reunion. Seek wise counsel. Discuss the situation with trusted friends, family, or therapists who understand the history and can offer an objective perspective, helping you see past the emotional appeal of the reconciliation illusion. Premeditate this tactic. Anticipate that a manipulator might try to hoover you back with promises of change. Mentally rehearsing how you will respond calmly and rationally, based on observed patterns rather than hopeful wishes, can strengthen your resolve when the moment arrives. Ultimately, the Stoic path through the illusion of reconciliation is one of vigilant wisdom. It requires valuing observable reality over comforting falsehoods, trusting your rational assessment of patterns over fleeting emotional appeals, and understanding that true peace comes from internal integrity and firm boundaries, not from surrendering your hard-won wisdom for the temporary comfort of a potentially dangerous illusion. Protect your progress. Don't trade lasting peace for temporary truce. Manipulation loses power the moment you become aware of it, and when awareness is paired with wisdom, you become untouchable, not through aggression, but through inner strength. Remember, they can twist the story, but they can't touch the truth. Let your life be a reflection of reason, virtue, and peace. Subscribe for more insights grounded in ancient wisdom and modern strength. Your journey to self-mastery starts now.